Introduce myself. So I'm Matty. I work as an innovation executive at the Prince's Trust. And who are you?
Okay. I'm Vicky, and I'm the innovation project lead at the Princess Trust.
You're also my boss, and I want to interview you because you've just undertaken something absolutely amazing. And I think we need to be shouting about it because you've achieved. Well, tell us what you've achieved.
Oh God, that makes me feel really uncomfortable. You call me your boss? Definitely not your boss. Colleague, like a flat rate structure, no hierarchy in what we do. Crikey, you're way more talented than me, so let's ditch that. So what have I just done? I've just don't know how, cycled the length of the country. So cycled Land's End to John O Groats in 9 days, 984 miles, twice the height of Everest. We climbed and ate about 310 hot cross buns.
It sounds like a dream, but I'm sure it was a bit more hellish than that.
So, I don't know. I think I'm a bit tapped because I wanted to put myself in an environment to see how far I can push myself.
So what was that like at the outset?
So I gave myself 3 months to train, which probably wasn't a good idea, and then thought, right, let's crack on, let's do this.
So have you ever undertaken a challenge like this before?
So in the past year, I've ran 2 marathons. So did my first one in Amsterdam in October, and then loved it so much and had such a euphoric high. The adrenaline encouraged me to sign up for my second marathon, which was in Brighton, and that was in April, which I did dressed as a piece of cheese because I'm from the mighty Gloucester, and they are famous for the cheese roll, so why not dress up as a piece of cheese and run a marathon?
And that's like...
Then I got bored of running, so it was like, actually running's really hard, I need some wheels, and then decided to take to the bike.
Cool. And so when did it hit you that just how momentous this challenge was going to be?
Probably day 4 of the challenge. Ignorance is bliss. I try not to think about the bigger picture and just try and break it down into chunks. And that was the advice I was given, is just break it down into stages. And then as I was going through it, I was like, whoa, I've already done 320 miles. Like,
which is
wow,
incredible.
How is that even possible? Whereas when you're in it, you're just focusing on 35 miles at a time.
And so what would you say is the crossover between this bike ride and your everyday work at the Trust?
Oh, like absolutely loads. So the innovation work at the Trust, I know what the vision is, and the vision is, we want to reach and support 1 million young people. You don't focus on the million because that's quite an overwhelming challenge. That's just a vision, like the end point on the cycle. You break it down into individual chunks. What can we achieve this week? What can we achieve this month? How are we going to do it? And just like when you're on the bike ride, it's one foot in front of the other. You're just pedaling to get to that checkpoint. It's exactly the same as the principles you apply in work. Just what can we achieve this week?
I think it's really interesting that you highlight the difference with this being a physical challenge, where innovation is very often like a mental strategy, but it can also be very exhaustive in its own right. So
yeah. And the other parallels are the full wraparound support. So when you're on a bike ride, yes, it's about the physical challenge, but it's about how do you look after your mental health? How do you look after your well-being? What's your nutrition? Are you feeding yourself properly? That's exactly the same in innovation work. Because it's such a roller coaster and there's so many unknowns, how are you looking after yourself so you don't burn out? How do you put in the debrief and the mental health support? Because it can be really exhausting at times because you have to be comfortable with risk. So if you're not comfortable with risk, I'd be mindful about innovation work. If you are, you have to put in that kind of support team around you.
Yeah. And so when you're an innovator and you're leading on quite disruptive projects that rock the boat, it can be quite a lonely experience, I think. So how has this journey changed your understanding about community?
Oh my God. I mean, the first step in that was when I did the marathon dressed as a piece of cheese, right? That was a huge learning, and I started to understand the power of community because I've been struggling with shin splints, so I hadn't done as much training as what I should. There's a theme here. And so I was like, let's do fancy dress. Just got to have fun with this marathon. And I got to about 10 miles in, was absolutely broken. But the power I got from all these little kids going, cheese, cheese, come on the cheese. And I was like, oh God, nobody wants to see a sad cheese. So even though I wanted to cry, I was like, don't give kids nightmares for the rest of their life. You've got to keep going. So then I just started to embrace it, like fist pump in the air and be like, yeah, I'm the cheese, let's do this. And then I took so much positive energy from them. This time around when I did the bike, yes, there were people on the streets, but not as many. So this was about actually how can I take the support online.
And what has the response been like from your colleagues, from your friends, from your family?
I'm still processing it. It's been overwhelming. Like every single day when I was on the bike ride, I was like, oh, I'll do some posts, and I had a bit of a strategy about what I thought I could do. My life coach challenged me with being vulnerable and being open. So how can I connect with people on the trip?
Yeah, and you just touched on a point in your journey where you got quite emotional. So what was it like on that particular day, and what prompted you to bite the bullet and record that video? Because I know I've never seen you in that vulnerable state before, so to do it on a public forum, I thought took some real guts, and it was so authentic and it was so honest, and I just was so inspired by that. So tell me about the run up to what happened just before filming that video.
Yeah, so I mean that gives me goosebumps. You give me that kind of feedback, so thank you. So it was the day before. I'd just done a huge bucket list adventure where we'd cycled to the top of a ski resort. I massively love skiing. That was a huge peak of adrenaline for me, where I was like, whoa, we just skied to the top of the ski resort. Everybody's got their cowbells, they're banging away. It was such a euphoric high in the middle of the Highlands. So that night, I was trying to manage my energy, where I was like, I'm on top of the world, this is awesome. Wake up in the next morning, absolutely wrecked, because emotionally you're quite drained. Also, I think I'd used up all the glycogen stores in all of my muscles. So although I felt for most of the trip like I was turning into foie gras, in the sense I was just constantly force feeding myself, the next day, this was when I was utterly knackered, and it was pouring with rain. We're in the Highlands. It was 45 mile crosswinds, which made BBC News because the conditions were so horrendous.
Yeah. I
was exhausted, and in the first 10 miles, we were climbing the Lex, which is this huge climb in the middle of Scotland. I was just so exhausted. And on that day, it was reported, I don't know the true fact, but there were rumours that over 250 people got on the bus.
Really?
Because the conditions, they were either scared because the conditions were so windy. It was miserable, you know, it's pouring with rain, so you're soaked. And it was just really hard. And I just couldn't get enough energy in my body to push me through it. So I was at the first checkpoint. I'd done 35 miles in. I just hoovered 3 hot cross buns. I had 8 cereal bars. I had a full English breakfast in the morning, 2 bowls of porridge covered in Nutella. And I just couldn't get enough food into my legs. And I was like, oh, I'm knackered. I sent a post, and somebody said, it was day 8, and they're like, Vic, you've got this, like, it's in the bag. And that really triggered me, because I was like, it's not in the bag. It's definitely not in the bag. I've got 250 miles to go. I'm wrecked. So I got to that checkpoint, and I just wanted to let people know the job's not done. I really need your support. Don't assume that this is easy and that I've got this, because I haven't. Until I cross that finish line, it's not over. And it really it's funny how it really triggered me into a negative headspace. So that's when I just had to pull on the support of everyone and was like, please don't assume that I've got this, because I haven't.
Yeah. You got all the way to the end. What was it like finishing that journey?
I think, to be honest, it's still ongoing, right? So there were a couple of points at the end. It was a major anticlimax, to be completely honest, because there was no finish line. So I was super excited on the last day. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my shit. I'm going to cry so much. It's been such a journey. Can't wait to cross the finish line. Similar to when I'd done one of the marathons, where you just have this huge euphoric release. Because the conditions were so bad, there wasn't a physical finish line. So I just cycled into a car park. So I was a bit like, oh, I've done 984 miles and now I'm in a car park. Like,
And that's it.
Yeah, but then I got my medal, and since coming back, the positive feedback that I've had from everybody, that has been a huge, it's way more powerful than a finish line. Everyone's like, what's next? What's next? And I'm like, this is a really exciting time. Like, I don't feel daunted about what's next. I'm like, well, if I can do that, I can literally do anything. And if you bring people on your journey, it's like, we are unstoppable.
What would you say to anyone who is looking to undertake a similar challenge?
Do it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Just find something that you're going to enjoy.
Yeah. And I guess to finish, how would you summarise that this experience has changed you?
I think I've probably changed the tense on that, and I wouldn't say changed, it's changing me every day. That is the ongoing process, and every day hearing from people and knowing the self-belief they had in me is really challenging me to believe in myself and back myself even more and to push myself forward. And the more I do that, the more my team are coming on board with that, the more it's also pushing other people. The next challenge is, how can I use this experience to do some fundraising for the trust and ask anybody who was interested in the trip, please can you put your hand in your pocket and put some money on my Just Giving page, because at the moment it's looking a bit weak.
This is the plug.
yeah, this is the plug, because that is really important, and we want to keep doing the work that we do.
Well, absolutely, and thank you so much for sharing this conversation with me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and you're so inspirational having done that, and also the fact that it's just driven by your passion for helping young people. So I believe with more people like you at the helm of innovation, that's how we're going to keep meeting that mission of helping our next million young people at the Trust. So thank you, and for everything that you do.
Actually, when you say at the helm, I'm like, oh God, maybe I need to do a boat challenge or something.
That's the next one. You have to work on your face down swimming, just in case.
Yeah. Row across the Atlantic or something, maybe I need to do that. So yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Matty.
Thank you.